Hello and thank you for tuning into News Today, a series where we briefly discuss and analyze important news of the day. Without delay, let's explore the headlines first. Preventive detention orders passed mechanically must be nipped in the bud by advisory board, says Supreme Court. India-US successfully resolved all 7 pending WTO disputes bilaterally. Government of India submits 2 applications for approval of plans of work for seabed exploration in the Indian Ocean. Unicorn 2.0, Adding the Next Trillion report has been released by Confederation of Indian Industry. Enabling a Circular Economy in India's Solar Industry, Assessing the Solar Waste Quantum report released. International Labour Organization and Institute for Human Development releases India Employment Report 2024. Starting with the first news. Preventive detention orders passed mechanically must be nipped in the bud by advisory board, says Supreme Court. Supreme Court in Nenavath, Bujji, etc. versus State of Telangana and others said that advisory board must play active role in ascertaining whether the detention is justified under a law or not. Let us first know and discuss about advisory board. Article 22 clause 4 says that any law pertaining to preventive detention must provide for constitution of an advisory board. It comprises any persons who have been or qualified to be appointed as judges of the High Court. Also, Parliament can lay down procedures to be followed by an advisory board during an inquiry. Moreover, the detention of a person cannot exceed 3 months unless an advisory board reports sufficient causes for extended detention. Further, if we talk about preventive detention, then it means detention of a person without trial and conviction by a court on a mere reasonable apprehension of him doing an activity dangerous to public order. Parliament has exclusive authority to make a law of preventive detention on defence, Foreign Affairs and Security of India. Both Parliament and state legislatures can concurrently make a law for reasons connected with security of a state and maintenance of public order. National Security Act 1980 and Unlawful Activities Prevention Amendment Act 2019 provide for preventive detention. At last, if we talk about some Supreme Court judgments on preventive detentions, then these include A.K. Gopalan vs. State of Madras 1950. Here, Supreme Court upheld constitutional validity of Preventive Detention Act of 1950. Another is Khudiram Das vs. State of West Bengal 1975. Supreme Court in this case observed that power of detention is clearly a preventive measure. It does not partake any manner of the nature of punishment.
Moving on to the next news. India-US successfully resolved all 7 pending WTO disputes bilaterally. The disputes include United States imposition of tariffs on steel and aluminium imports, India's renewable energy subsidies for solar cells and modules, and more. Both countries submitted notification to WTO's dispute settlement body, DSP, of mutually agreed solution in dispute titled DS 430 concerning importation of certain agricultural products. Now take a look at WTO dispute settlement method. There are 2 main ways to settle a dispute once a complaint has been filed in WTO. First is mutually agreed solution. At any stage during dispute settlement process, parties can settle disputes by a mutually agreed solution. Solutions must be consistent with relevant WTO agreement. Parties are required to notify dispute settlement body or DSP and relevant committees of mutually agreed solution. Another, the dispute settlement process. It involves consultation of 60 days where members try to reach a mutually agreeable solution through direct talks. If the consultation fails, next is the process of adjudication. A panel of experts is established by DSP to examine the case and deliver a report. It can be appealed to an appellate body. Lastly, in terms of implementation, DSP adopts appellate body report, making it binding on the parties. Further, let's learn more about appellate body. Appellate body was established in 1995. It has 7 members and its seat is in Geneva, Switzerland. Decision to appoint persons to body is taken by consensus among all WTO members. It has been dysfunctional since 2019 because US has blocked appointment of appellate body members. The term of the last sitting appellate body member expired on 30th November 2020.
Moving ahead in the news, Government of India submits 2 applications for approval of plans of work for seabed exploration in the Indian Ocean. India has applied with the International Seabed Authority for rights to explore 2 vast tracts in the Indian Ocean seabed. These rights are specific to areas that are part of the open ocean where no countries can claim sovereignty. Applied regions are for exploration of polymetallic sulfides in Indian Ocean Ridge, located in central Indian Ocean, and for exploration of cobalt-rich ferromanganese crusts of a fancy Nikéten seamount in the central Indian Ocean. Currently, India holds 2 contracts for exploration in the Indian Ocean. These are for exploration of polymetallic nodules in the central Indian Ocean basin. Polymetallic nodules contain manganese, iron, nickel, copper, cobalt, and lead. These metals are of economic and strategic importance. The other contract is for exploration of polymetallic sulfides in the Indian Ocean ridge. Seabed exploration outside of territorial limits are decided by the United Nations Convention on Law of Sea. The convention, adopted in 1982, lays down a comprehensive regime of law and order in the world's oceans and seas. If we talk about the bodies established under United Nations Convention on Law of Sea, then these are International Seabed Authority, International Tribunal for Law of the Sea, and Commission on Limits of the Continental Shelf. At last, now let's discuss and understand about International Seabed Authority. Headquartered in Kingston, Jamaica, it is an autonomous international organization established under United Nations Convention on Law of Sea. It has 169 members, including 168 member states and the European Union. Its functions include organization and control of all mineral resources related activities in sea for the benefit of humankind, and protection of marine environment from harmful effects arising from deep seabed related activities. Moving ahead in the news. Unicorn 2.0, adding the next trillion report has been released by Confederation of Indian Industry. The report assesses the growth and impact of India's existing unicorn and startup ecosystem and provides a vision for its future. Let's start with discussing the impacts of Unicorn 1.0, which was between 2010 to 2023. Economically, it made a contribution of 10 to 15% to GDP growth with 100 plus unicorns, which is third highest globally, and 1 lakh startups. Also, it increased inclusivity and sustainability with 20 to 25% of new employment creation, 50 million plus fintech-powered MSMEs, and 40th rank in Global Innovation Index. Moreover, it also contributed to democratizing consumption by increasing greater affordability with 30 to 40% lower cost of education and healthcare and improved e-commerce reach. Further, if we talk about Unicorn 2.0, which will be there between 2024 to 2035, has the potential to substantially transform India's society and economy with an additional contribution of $1 trillion to GDP and wide-scale democratization of digital services by 2030. Shifts that will define Unicorn 2.0 will include 15 to 25 global leading startups, 25 plus innovation-led companies, near zero instances of corporate governance lapses, and broad basing of investor ecosystems. Let us now have a look at the recommendations for Unicorn 2.0. Firstly, it recommends for participation of retail investors and public sector institutions in funding. Next, it rewires governance by defining guidelines and corporate governance framework for startups. Also, the regulations foster supportive tax environment. Moreover, to boost innovation, it encourages startups to invest in academic research and monetize resulting IP. Additionally, it also focuses on development of a deeper talent pool through apprenticeship-based certification or courses. At last, the growth of India's startup ecosystem is propelled by a dynamic interplay of key stakeholders. An expanding investor landscape characterized by a plethora of investment avenues and instruments injects vital capital into burgeoning ventures, fostering innovation and expansion. Moreover, the diversification of founder profiles marked by an increasing presence of women, serial entrepreneurs, and non-traditional founders. Complementing these trends is the growing support from the government, with initiatives aimed at bolstering digital public infrastructure, thereby widening digital engagement.
In another news, enabling a circular economy in India's solar industry, assessing the solar waste quantum report has been released. Report has been developed by Ministry of New and Renewable Energy (MNRE) and Council on Energy, Environment and Water (CEEW) under the Niti Aayog Action Plan for Circular Economy (CE) solar panels. Niti Aayog has finalized 10 sectoral CE action plans for implementation by stakeholder ministries or departments. Now let's look at the need for solar waste management. India has installed 66.7 gigawatt capacity financial year 2023, has generated about 100 kilotons of waste, with cumulative waste increasing to 600 kilotons by 2030. Solar waste contains critical minerals such as silicon, copper, tellurium, and cadmium, whose recycling will reduce import dependency. Toxic metals like lead and cadmium, which can contaminate water and soil and impact workforce health. Metals like silver and silicon having high economic value with applications in manufacturing industries. Here are some recommendations made in the report. To maintain a comprehensive database of the installed solar capacity for accurate mapping of waste generation centers. Another, solar cell and module producers should start developing waste collection and storage centers to adhere to the e-waste management rules 2022. Also, promoting safe recycling of waste and recovery from solar waste. And lastly, academia and industry should accelerate module recycling technology innovation. Further, here are the initiatives taken for circular economy in India's solar energy sector. Report on circular economy in solar panels to Niti Aayog. Solar PV cells made part of Electronic Waste Management Rules 2022. Solar PV recycling as priority thrust area under Renewable Energy Research and Technology Development Program. In the last news, International Labour Organization and Institute for Human Development releases India Employment Report 2024. It examines the challenge of youth employment in India and changes over the past 2 decades. Here are the key findings of the report. Employment growth remained stagnant up to 2019 and then moved upward, dominated by poor quality employment in informal sector, that is nearly 82%. Another, slow and steady transition of the workforce to non-farm employment has reversed due to the COVID pandemic. Women largely account for increase in self-employment and unpaid family work. Also, wages has remained low and are stagnant or declining. Lastly, labor productivity consistently increased alongside capital deepening, indicating association of growth with technological progress and productivity gains rather than employment. But there are some challenges along the way in youth employment. India is at an inflection point as youth population at 27% in 2021 is expected to decline to 23% by 2036. Education participation of youth who are out of labor force drive the low youth labor force participation rate. Probability of any kind of employment is lower as education rises, but higher for youths having technical education. Youth unemployment increased nearly threefold from 5.7% in 2000 to 17.5% in 2019. Further, take a look at the 5 key policy areas for action. Firstly, to make production and growth more employment intensive. Improve job quality through investing in emerging sectors, creating inclusive migration policy and ensuring basic rights. Overcome labor market inequalities, boosting participation of women and youth. Also, make systems for skills training and active labor market policies more effective. Lastly, bridge knowledge deficits on labor market patterns with reliable statistics. In today's Place in News, we will discuss Mauritania with its capital Nouakchott. India and Mauritania held their first Foreign Office consultations in Nouakchott. Let's discuss its political features. It is located in northwest Africa on the Atlantic coast. Its bordering countries or territories include Western Sahara Territory, most of which is occupied by Morocco, Algeria, Mali, and Senegal. And the bordering water body is Atlantic Ocean. In terms of its geographical features, much of the Mauritania encompasses part of the Sahara Desert. Its major river is Senegal River, which forms its border with Senegal. Topography include inselbergs, which are isolated steep-sided rock hills or small mountains, of which the highest is Mount Igel. Lastly, the vegetation includes regions of savanna and Sahel.
As we conclude today's main news, let's go through some quick updates. The Global Trade Update report was released by the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. If we talk about the key findings of the report, then these include services exports from India rose by 14% in 2023, while goods export declined by 6%. International trade is expected to rebound in 2024. And logistical challenges such as shipping disruptions in the Red Sea and Black Sea can raise costs and disrupt supply chains. Public knowledge about hepatitis B is dismal in India, according to a study. Viral hepatitis is an inflammation of the liver caused by a virus. Main hepatitis viruses are hepatitis A, B, and C. Operation Sankalp, launched by the Indian Navy in December 2023, it completed 100 days. It operates across 3 key areas: Gulf of Aden and adjoining regions, Arabian Sea, and off the east coast of Somalia. PSLV Orbital Experimental Module 3 or POEM-3 successfully concluded its mission by re-entering Earth's atmosphere and disintegrating. It virtually left no debris in orbit, demonstrating a commitment to minimizing space clutter. OM initiative utilizes the fourth stage of PSLV as a platform to conduct scientific experiments in orbit, converting it into a functioning laboratory for space-based research. The International Astronomical Union has approved the name Shiv Shakti for the landing site of Chandrayaan-3's Vikram lander. The name was included in the Gazetteer of Planetary Nomenclature, which documents planetary names approved by the International Astronomical Union. Vietnam faces crop losses as salt water seeps into Mekong Delta region, known as Vietnam's rice bowl. The Mekong Delta, one of the largest and most fertile deltas in Asia, is situated in Cambodia and Vietnam. The Mekong River is the longest river in Southeast Asia. Border Road Organization has connected strategically important roads from Manali to Leh through Darcha and Nimu on Kargil-Leh highway. The road is not only shorter but crosses only one pass, Shinkula. Shinkula Pass connects Lahaul and Spiti in Himachal Pradesh with Zanskar Valley in Kargil, Ladakh. The faith of the Baha'i community is not recognized by Iran's constitution. Baha'i faith is a relatively young monotheistic religion with spiritual roots dating back to the early 19th century in Iran. The founder of Baha'i faith is Baha'u'llah. New Delhi's Lotus Temple is a Baha'i house of worship. Before we go, it's time to put your knowledge to test in today's segment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you have enjoyed this edition of News Today. To get the answers to today's quiz and to download the PDF of News Today, make sure to check out the links in the description below.